Okay, so there's two papers, and it's sad because they're both blue. You're going to have to distinguish, but one of them says topic at the top. Those are the notes, and that's the one I'm going to start on. Now, we talked about three forms. We talked about standard, root, and vertex. Standard, root, and vertex. Okay, Micah, I am speaking now, and I would hate to have to, I don't know, smack you to start with, but I will. All right. So, the first one is standard form. And the reason I know this is standard form, there's no parentheses. No parentheses is standard form. Standard form is what we've used all along. It's what we use to factor. Ax squared plus bx plus c, where we took a times c and the b. And that was our standard form. Okay, from standard form, there's two things you can get very easily. The first thing you get very easily from standard form is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0c. So we can get that very easily because what is my c value right now? 24. So the y-intercept is 0, 24. So that's the first thing you get very easily. The next thing we can get very easily is the vertex. And we get the vertex, this is the one where you use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. And the x is the h of your vertex. So this is the h of my vertex. So I'm going to take negative b, which is going to be 16, minus the minus gives me positive. 2 times 2 is 4, so my h is a positive 4. So that is the x of my vertex. The x of my vertex is 4, and that x is the axis of symmetry. And so we're going to write x equals 4 here. And if you just write a 4 there, you get it wrong. You have to have x equals 4 to get that correct. So the next thing I need, if I have my x, I still need the y for my vertex. So I'm going to take my 4, and I'm going to plug it back in here, and I'm just going to solve for y. So I'm going to do f of 4, and that's going to equal 2 times 4 squared minus 16 times 4 plus 24. And if you all will please trust my math, because I actually did it with the calculator, you get negative 8. I just plugged the 4 in for the x, and I got negative 8. So this is my y value or my k value for my vertex. So this is negative 8. So I want to put my vertex in, which is 4, negative 8. The axis of symmetry divides the parabola in 2. So let's go ahead and dot that in. So the next thing that I know is I need the max or min. So, y'all, what is the a value in this equation? 2. Is that positive or negative? Positive, and that means the parabola is which way? Up or down? Up. So if it means it's up, this vertex is going to be a minimum, correct? So this is the minimum, and it's going to be whatever my y value is, which is, this time is negative 8. Okay, so how many of you can do all of this so far from the standard? We can get the y-intercept, we can do the negative b over 2a, and we can find the y value. And that gives us the axis of symmetry and the max or min value. Okay, so far? Okay, so the next thing, The domain is the same on every single one of these. I don't even have to look at what the equation is. The domain is always negative infinity to infinity. If you get nothing else right, fill that one in. You are running out of time. Throw that down on the paper. That's right every time. Okay, so we're going to come back to the range, but I know the range is going to be bottom to top, right? Because the vertex is at the bottom, but we'll come back to that. I want to fill in the roots so we can draw it and see what it looks like. So for the roots, it says to find the roots, you're going to have to factor the standard equation. So if I go back to my standard equation, first of all, I can divide out 2. And if I divide out the 2, then this, my A times C, is going to give me negative 6, negative 2. And from this, once I'm factored, what do my x's equal? 6 and 2. So those are my roots. So my roots are going to be 2 and 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put these here, 2 and 6. And now we can talk about the range. Well, let's go ahead and draw this. And y'all, when you draw this, parabolas are not V's. They're curves and they're rounded. And they shouldn't be a V or it looks like absolute value, and that'll be wrong. So my range is bottom to top, and so my bottom value is the K value, which is negative 8 to infinity. And if you put your finger on the parabola, on the left, am I going down or up to get to the vertex? Down, so that's the decreasing. And remember, do I use X or Y with my decreasing? X, always X. So I'm going to do negative infinity to 4, and then 4 to infinity. And this is what you whined about for hours before Thanksgiving. No. Okay, next, I have 2 more forms. I have this form, and I have this form. First of all, we always know it's standard form because there's no parentheses, right? These 2 both have parentheses, and the way you're going to tell the difference, this has a squared, and this one, the bottom one does not. If it has a squared, this is going to be vertex form. And vertex form is this. So clearly, vertex form, what do I get easily? The vertex, which is the H and the K. So my H is 2. Y'all, what's the K? 0. So if I put this on the graph, there's the vertex. Which axis is that on? So if it's 2, 0, that is also what? It's also the root, isn't it? Because it's on the x-axis. All right. So let's just go through in order, though. The axis of symmetry, does that come from x or y? X. So x is 2. My A value, is it positive or negative? That's going to make the vertex A minimum. And the value is going to be y equals 0. The domain of every single one The range is bottom to top, so my y value is 0 to infinity. This is on the x-axis, so my root is 2. So my y-intercept, I want to find my y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, x is 0. So I'm going to do f of 0, and it's going to equal 3 times 0 minus 2 is negative 2 squared. So negative 2 squared is 4 times 3 is, so I get 0, 12 for my y-intercept. Okay, so I want to go back to the graph now. This is the axis of symmetry right here. My y-intercept is 0, 12, and let's just say it's right here. If this is my y-intercept, because of the axis of symmetry, can I make another point right on this side? Right? Because the axis of symmetry cuts it in half. So 2 this way and 2 this way. I get 2 points. And so now, I have my parabola. If I put my finger here and I move to the vertex, am I moving up or down? I'm moving down and I'm using x or y. X, so I'm going to 2, and then I'm going to infinity. Any questions here? Okay, the last one is root form. There's no squared. There's no squared. And root form is always going to be a times x minus r1, x minus r2. So root form, what's going to be the easy thing to find in root form? The roots. So what is my root here? 2, and this one is, so I'm going to have x equals negative 2 and 2. And let's go ahead and put these here. If these are the roots, what has to cut the roots in half? The axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is that my x or my y value? X. So if this is my axis of symmetry, right? This is my axis of symmetry. What does that make my x value? 0. So now I want to find my y value. I want to find the y value. I'm going to take this 0 and I'm going to do f of 0 in my equation. So if I do that, I'm going to have negative 2 times negative 2 times positive 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So let's go ahead and put 0, 8. And if that is my, if this is my vertex, what is this also equal to? What's it also? Which axis is it on? Y, which makes it the y-intercept. So my axis of symmetry. Yes? Oh, it is. It is. Y'all, it is. Thank you. This way. Let's go this way. And y'all, for sure, how do I know for sure that was wrong? If I put this vertex down here, and this is negative, which way does the parabola have to go? Down. Would I get my x-intercepts if I flipped it? No. So that is definitely wrong. So I had to go this way. Thank you very much. I know, I'm sorry. Thought I was going to get all the way through with no mistakes. Okay, axis of symmetry. Where does that come? Comes from the x. Is my vertex a max or a min this time? Max, and that's at y equals 8. The domain, negative infinity to infinity. The range goes bottom to top. This time it's negative infinity to 8. If I put my finger starting on the left and I move to the vertex, am I going up or down? Up. So that's going to be increasing from negative infinity to 0 and 0 to infinity. Okay. On the next paper, number 1. What form is this? Root. Okay, I want you to start. Before I start talking, tell me where you're stuck. Where are you stuck?
Y.
The y. That's the second person that asked me about the y. Okay. So first of all, we know the roots, right? And y'all be careful on the roots, because if I set this equal to 0, what is my root? Negative 6 and negative 2. So be careful with that. So the roots are negative 6 and negative 2. And that's negative 6, negative 2. So these are all the same, right? All three of those are the same. That's number 1. Also, as long as we're here, let's just fill in what we know, which is negative infinity to infinity. So the next thing that I know, if I put negative 6 and negative 2, then what's halfway between? And so that tells me that this is where my axis of symmetry goes. And that tells me that that's the x of my vertex. And that tells me that is my axis of symmetry. Is that everybody good? Next, so several of you did ask about the y. I'm going to take this negative 4 and I'm going to put it in this equation right here to find the y. And if I do that, I get negative. So negative 4 plus 6 is what? 2. And negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. So my negative 4, there's my vertex. And so when I look at it, I'm going to ask myself if that makes sense. What is my A value this time? Negative. So it makes sense it's on top. I'm going to go ahead and get my x-intercept. So that's good. All right. So this is going to make this a max. My value is y equals 4. My range is going to go bottom to top. So that's going to be negative infinity to 4. So the next thing that I run into that I don't have my y-intercept. And y'all, which one of those is it easiest to find the y-intercept? The standard form, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm just going to multiply it out, okay? So if I do that, I get y equals a negative. X times x is going to give me x squared plus 8x plus 12. And when I distribute the negative, I'm going to get my standard form, which is negative x squared minus 8x minus 12. So all I did, I multiplied this out at the top. I just multiplied. X times x is x squared. 6x plus 2x gave me 8x. 6 times 2 gave me 12. I distributed the negative. And so now what is my y-intercept? So I get 0, negative 12. So it's down here, correct? And if I get a dot on this side, I should be able to get a dot on this side as well, here. And so that's going to give me my parabola. So if I put my finger and move towards the vertex, am I increasing or decreasing? Increasing. So that's going to be from negative infinity to which value, x or y? Which is negative 4, and then negative 4 to infinity. The last thing that they're asking for is the vertex form. Here is my vertex form. Do I know my A value? What is my A value? Negative. Do I know H? Do I know K? This is H, this is K, and my A value I'm going to get right here. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to have minus x plus 4 squared plus 4, and you have to have equals y. Is that okie dokie? Probably the hardest part is to remember how to get it in vertex form. Out of all of that, I think that's, you just have to remember the form. That's probably the hardest part. All right, what form is next? Standard. What do I get the easiest out of standard? Y-intercept. So what is my y-intercept? 0, 10. So let's go ahead and put that on, 0, 10. All right, what's next? How do I get the vertex from standard form? Okay, x equals negative b, so minus the minus is going to be 12 over 2 times 2, which is 4, so my x is 3. Yes? Yep. Now that I know x, how do I find y? Okay, so if I put the y, I'm going to do f of 3, and that's going to equal 2 times 3 squared minus 12 times 3 plus 10. If you will trust my math, which I know is hard to do, but it is negative 8. So my vertex is 3 and negative 8. Where do I get the axis of symmetry? So can I just write 3? X equals 3. Is my vertex a minimum or a maximum? Minimum. And it's at what value? Negative 8. What is the domain every single time? The range, bottom to top, the negative 8 to infinity. Okay, what am I missing? The root. Any suggestions?
Factor.
Factor, we will. So I'm going to start, I'm going to divide by 2. So I divide by 2. My A times C is 5. My B is negative 6. So when I factor, it's 5 and 1. 2 and 3 is not 6. 2 plus 3 is 5. You want it to be 6, baby. So, so that makes my roots x equals 1 and 5. These are all the same. So I get 1 and 5. So if this is my axis of symmetry, and I'm over 3, I can go over 3 and get another here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw. And it's not a V, it's a curve. It has arrows on the end also, by the way. Okay, y'all, when I factored right here, what form is that? Root form, so let's fill that in right here. If I put my finger and move to the vertex, am I going up or down? Down, so that's the decreasing from negative infinity to which value? X or Y? X, and so that's to 3, and then 3 to infinity. Vertex form. This is our vertex form. What is my A value? 2. And then I'm going to do x minus 3 squared minus 8. Okay, start the next one. Oh, what form is this?
Vertex.
Vertex, so my vertex is 7, negative 1. That makes my axis of symmetry 7. We got the domain. So if the vertex is 7, negative 1, there we go. And what is my A value? Nope. What's the A value? 1. So does the problem go up or down? Up, which makes this a minimum at y equals negative 1. And that's going to make my range, since it's going to go up, my range is going to be negative 1 to infinity. So now I'm stuck. I need, what do I need? Roots. So what do you think I'm going to do to find that?
Oh dear.
Can I do this? Can I multiply? So if I multiply, I get x squared minus 14x plus 49 minus 1, which is going to give me y equals x squared minus 14x plus 48. And just for the record, what form is that? Standard. So here's another check.
Oh yeah.
So if this is in standard form, what do I get from standard form? Y-intercept, and what is my y-intercept? 0, 48. We like that. Next, the last thing I need is the roots, and I have to factor. And so if I look at, I have y equals x squared minus 14x plus 48. So my a times c is 48 and minus 14, which is going to give me negative 8 and negative 6. So my root form is x plus 8, x plus 6. right?
Yes.
So here is my root form, check. So my roots, that makes my roots -8, -6. Is that right? It can't be. Oh, this is minus, y'all, here, this. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Now we're good. But, okay, but look, y'all, how did I know? How did I know I was wrong? Right. They were going to go over here, and the vertex was over here. Right? So I knew I was on the wrong side. So this is X and X. So that's going to give me my 8 and 0, 6 and 0, 6 and 8. The last thing I need to fill in, if I put my finger here, am I decreasing going to the vertex?
Yes.
Decreasing, so I'm going to do -infinity to 7, and 7 to infinity.